Hello and welcome to part 3 of my new player series for the engineer profession. This guide is for new and returning players with little or no engineering experience in the hope of saving you hours of reading on the wiki. In part 1, we looked at the engineer's history, archetype and game style to give you an overview of the profession. In part 2, we covered engineering kits, and there are links in the top right-hand corner of the screen to both those episodes. Now here, in part 3, we will dive into the wonderful world of gadgets. New players, please note the links to the wiki in the description relating to Guild Wars 2 combat terms, as you will encounter some unfamiliar language here. There are also timestamps in the pinned comment below, so you can select the part of the guide you are interested in. So, let's jump into it. Gadgets are mechanical marvels which you can utilize to damage and disable foes, as well as applying healing and boons to yourself and allies. Starting with the Automated External Defibrillator, or A.E.D, which heals you for 6 seconds when activated. Now, if you take a lethal amount of damage, the A.E.D can be a lifesaver by burst healing you for a large amount, as well as removing any offending conditions the enemy has kindly gifted you. Sadly, if you throw yourself off a cliff, this function will not save you from being nominated for a Darwin Award. The A.E.D can also be used to stun a single target when you activate its static shock ability via your tool belt skills here. This skill offers a 1-second stun. Traits that synergize well with this utility skill are Heal Resonator, found in the Invention Specialization line, which triggers 6 seconds of a regeneration to allies in a 240 radius around you when you use a healing skill. Cleansing Synergy, also found in the Invention Specialization line, removes one condition on up to 5 allies in a range of 300 around you, again when you use a healing skill. The Gadgeteer trait, found in the Tool Specialization line, reduces the recharge of all gadget skills by 20% and modifies the ability of all gadget skills too. So for the A.E.D, it increases the heal time duration to 6 seconds, and if fatal damage is taken, it adds a shock aura to that function. Now, Shock Aura stuns foes in a 240 radius around the engineer, lasts for 4 seconds, and stuns for 1 second. This is a pulse aura, so it can only stun once every 2 seconds. Next up is the Personal Battering Ram, which is a hard crowd control skill, which throws a single target backwards for 450 units, whilst inflicting a nominal amount of damage. The target must be within 130 range to use this skill. This skill is very useful for breaking defiance bars in PvE and annoying the hell out of other players in PvP. Its tool belt skill is Launch Personal Ram, which is a 900 range physical projectile single target that damages, cripples for 6 seconds and applies a 1-second daze. Again, the Gadgeteer skill found in the Tool Specialization line still reduces all the gadget skills recharge by 20%, but for Battering Ram, it increases the launch range to 600 and adds a 3-second burn to its function. Rocket Boots are a stun breaker as well as a combo blast finisher. Links to the wiki below. When activated, you are propelled forward 900 units, and any conditions which immobilize, cripple or chill you are removed. When traded by Gadgeteer, the launch range is increased to 1200, and you are also granted Superspeed, which increases your movement speed by 100% for 2 seconds. This skill also damages up to 5 targets in 120 radius around you at the launch site. Its tool skill is Rocket Kick, which when activated causes the engineer to lurch forward, inflicting flat damage on up to 5 targets in a 300 range, as well as applying 2 stacks of burning for 8 seconds. The Slick Shoes skill is an unblockable, close-range, hard crowd control ability. It sprays oil behind you, knocking down foes for 2 seconds on land, or applying 5 seconds of blindness during aquatic combat. This ground effect persists for 3 seconds and has a 60 radius. Using the Gadgeteer trait, the Oil Slick radius is increased to 90, and it also inflicts 4 seconds of cripple to your pursuers when they are knocked down by it. Its tool skill is Superspeed, which acts as a stun breaker, cleansing movement impairing effects, as well as increasing your movement speed by 100% for 5 seconds. Throw Mine, unsurprisingly, throws a landmine. This mine deals direct damage to up to 5 targets. It has a proximity range of 120 and an explosive range of 240. This unblockable attack is a hard crowd control knockback and strips 1 boon per target. Mines persist for 60 seconds and can be triggered by enemies or by using the detonation function skill here. If you have selected the Gadgeteer trait, you drop a second mine at your location when you cast this skill. Its tool belt skill is Minefield, which places 5 mines around the engineer in a 360-degree radius. These mines have an explosive radius of 180. They can be triggered by foes or again detonated by you. Here, the explosion can hit up to 5 targets with flat damage and again remove a boon. Traits that synergize well with this utility are found in the Explosives specialization line. The Steel Packed Powder trait adds 5 seconds of vulnerability to explosive damage. The Shrapnel trait adds 6 seconds of bleeding and 1 second of cripple to explosive damage. Finally, we come to the utility Goggles, which act as a stun breaker as well as granting 10 seconds of fury, which increases by 20% your critical damage chance, and also gifts you with immunity from blindness for 10 seconds. If you have opted for the Gadgeteer trait, activating this skill grants an additional 5 stacks of might for 10 seconds. The tool belt skill for Goggles is Analyse, which has a range of 1200 and applies 10 stacks of vulnerability to a single target. It also reveals a target, stopping them from entering stealth for 6 seconds. The Reactive Lens trait found in the tool specialization line automatically activates the utility Goggles stun break when you are blinded or disabled. All tool belt skills synergize with these 3 tool specialization line traits. The Optimize activation trait grants 2 seconds of vigor when using a tool belt skill. Vigor increases your endurance regeneration by 50%. The Static Discharge trait adds a bouncing damage component to your attacks when using a tool belt skill with a range of 1200. The Mechanized Deployment trait reduces the recharge rate of your tool belt skills by 15%. Now that's all the gadget skills for the engineer as it stands. Do let me know in the comments what gadgets you use most and why. Many thanks to my patrons for their support and friendship. Their kindness allows me to dedicate myself more and more to content creation, which I dearly love. I can never thank them enough. If you are thinking of joining the Guild Wars 2 community, there are referral links below to the free-to-play game, the Heart of Thorns expansions, and the Path of Fire expansion too, thanks to the generosity of ArenaNet and their partner program. Using these links directly supports my channel. In part 4, we're delving into the many engineering turrets currently available, and I hope you will join me. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.